Amy rushed in from school.
Our teacher showed us a hedgehog. I'm going to become a hedgehog expert,
She said to her mother, Mrs. Harris. A what? Said Mrs. Harris.
A hedgehog expert is someone who knows all about hedgehogs.
That's good,
Said Mrs. Harris.
Why don't you go to the library and see if you can find some books?
Oh dear,
Amy groaned.
I'll have to see Mr. Peck, the librarian.
Nobody liked Mr. Peck. He was mean. He, also, was Amy's neighbor. Amy went to the library and started to look for a book on hedgehogs.
What are you doing?
Snapped Mr. Peck from behind. Amy nearly jumped out of her socks.
I was looking for a book on hedgehogs.
Hedgehogs,
Cried Mr. Peck.
the worst animals. They dig up vegetables and eat them.
He pulled a book from the shelves.
Make sure you return the book on time. And don't bring hedgehogs into your garden. Your garden is next to mine. If I see a hedgehog near my carrots, I will squirt it with my spray gun.
He said angrily. At home, Amy read the book. She found out that they eat slugs and snails, not vegetables. The next day, she took the book back to the library.
Have you got any more books about hedgehogs?
She asked Mr. Peck.
Over there.
Snapped Mr. Peck, pointing with his nose. Amy walked slowly along the shelves. She found an old cassette tape called Calls of the Wild. Tape number 12 was called Hedgehogs. She borrowed it. She played the tape over and over again. She learned to speak the hedgehog language. She ran into the garden and made hedgehog noises as loudly as she could. But no hedgehog answered.
I'm going to keep trying,
She said. Mr. Peck heard the noise and one day he came over to complain to Mrs. Harris.
Every night when I have a bath, I can hear some sort of animal noise from your garden.
Amy laughed.
Mr. Peck thought I was an animal.
She said to herself. She ran to the garden and made her hedgehog sounds again. Soon a hedgehog walked onto the lawn. Amy was so happy. The hedgehog and Amy squeaked at each other. Suddenly, a torch beam shone in their eyes.
What's going on?
Said Mr. Peck. The hedgehog rolled into a ball.
I'm chatting to a hedgehog.
Said Amy.
How often do you talk to this dirty little animal?
Mr. Peck asked.
Now onwards, every night.
Said Amy and snorted gently to the hedgehog. Slowly, it unrolled. When Amy returned home from school the next day, Mr. Peck was fixing a large board to his gate. As soon as he saw Amy, he threw his coat over it. Amy was in a hurry to show her hedgehog friends to her mother. Amy went into her garden and began to snort. 2 hedgehogs came up to her.
What are you talking to them about?
Whispered Mrs. Harris.
About slugs.
There was a sound from the next door. Amy shone her torch towards the fence. There were people staring into her garden. They all had their mouths open. Mr. Peck said,
I've invited a few friends. I hope you don't mind.
Amy was cross, but she also felt rather proud that so many people had come to see her.
You may watch, but please don't make a noise. And no photos.
The people nodded. Amy went down on her knees and snorted once more. More hedgehogs came up. Amy and the hedgehogs talked and played together. After the hedgehogs had gone into the bushes, the people clapped and cheered. Mrs. Harris hugged Amy.
You are fantastic,
She said.
Yes.
Said Mr. Peck. Amy felt something was very strange. She heard the sound of coins dropped into a box. She remembered the board Mr. Peck was putting up. She ran to the gate to read it. It said in large letters, See the amazing hedgehog girl. Admission only $1. Tea and biscuits.
What a nerve!
said Emmy.
I'll fix this.
She ran to Mr. Peck's garden. She said,
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving the money tonight. This money is going to a hedgehog hospital to look after sick hedgehogs.
Everyone clapped except Mr. Peck.
And Mr. Peck has agreed to add £1 for every pound that you give tonight.
She took the box of money from Mr. Peck. He looked very sad, and he looked sadder when he gave her £20 from his pocket. Everyone clapped again. Emmy felt sorry for Mr. Peck. After she sent the money to the hedgehog hospital, she asked the hedgehogs to make sure that the slugs do not eat Mr. Peck's vegetables. Mr. Peck soon won 3 prizes at the local show for his carrots and beans. That evening, he leaned over the fence to show the prizes to Emmy.
It's all thanks to those hedgehogs.
He said.
I did not know they were so useful.
Emmy looked at the hedgehogs. It seemed that they smiled to her.